What was supposed to be a sweet moment between mother and daughter turned into one of the most revealing displays of control we have ever seen on Sister Wives. Robyn Brown and her 23-year-old daughter Aurora stood in the kitchen making cookies together, a supposedly tender bonding activity that Robyn claims she does whenever Cody is out of town. But viewers quickly realized this was not about baking. This was about manipulation disguised as maternal concern. Aurora, who has finally entered her first real relationship after 2 decades of being sheltered, shared the exciting news that she and her boyfriend Brody Utley were thinking long-term. They had been dating for nearly a year at that point. This was not some casual fling. They had labeled the relationship, celebrated milestones, and were genuinely building something together. Any normal mother would have been thrilled. Any normal mother would have embraced this moment of growth and independence for her adult daughter. But Robyn is not any normal mother. Instead of celebrating, Robyn immediately began planting seeds of doubt. She wanted Aurora to experience life on her own first. She wanted her daughter to know herself before becoming a wife or mother. On the surface, this might sound like reasonable advice. Dig a little deeper, and the cracks start showing. If Robyn truly wanted Aurora to find herself and live independently, why is her 23-year-old daughter still living at home under her roof and her rules? Why has Aurora never been encouraged to get her own apartment, build her own life, or make decisions without parental oversight? The talking head interviews told a completely different story than what Robyn presented to Aurora in person. While she smiled and nodded at her daughter in the kitchen, Robyn was already laying the groundwork in her confessionals to undermine this relationship. She expressed concern that Brody was not from their culture. She emphasized the importance of taking time. She made it abundantly clear through her tone and her words that she did not fully approve of this young man who dared to capture her daughter's heart. Sources close to the situation suggest this pattern runs deep. Aurora reportedly called her mother Mother Gothel behind closed doors, a reference to the controlling villain from Tangled who kept Rapunzel locked away from the world. The comparison is almost too perfect. Here we have a young woman who has been sheltered her entire life finally finding someone who makes her happy, and her mother responds by questioning whether she is ready for love at all. Fans watching at home could not believe what they were witnessing. Social media erupted with observations about how strange and controlling the entire interaction felt. Aurora is a legal adult. She has reportedly graduated from college. She is fully capable of making her own romantic decisions. Yet there was Robyn using cookie dough and casual conversation to slowly chip away at her daughter's confidence. But the financial advice Robyn dropped during this scene would prove even more outrageous, and then Robyn said it. The words that left viewers absolutely speechless. A man should not be a financial plan for a woman. She delivered this line with complete sincerity, looking directly at her daughter as if she were imparting generational wisdom. The audacity was breathtaking. The hypocrisy was staggering. Because if anyone in the history of reality television has used a man as a financial plan, it is Robyn Brown. Let us take a trip back to the pages of Becoming Sister Wives, the book Robyn herself co-authored with the Brown family. In her own words, she wrote that if and when she married again, she would not care the least bit what her husband looked like, old or young, fat or skinny, none of it mattered. What did matter? She wanted someone whose sole priority was taking care of his family. She described wanting a man who would demonstrate himself thoroughly and competently as caring, unselfish, and strong. Translation, she wanted a provider. She wanted a financial plan with a pulse. Before Robyn joined the Brown family at 30 years old, her work history was sparse at best. She held brief jobs as a receptionist and activities coordinator. She admitted that every penny she earned went to feeding her kids, but that it was never enough to handle her significant credit card debt. In the family book, she even confessed to needing to borrow gas money just to visit the Browns during her courtship with Cody. This was not a woman standing on her own 2 feet. This was a woman actively searching for someone to rescue her. And rescue her. Cody did. The moment Robyn spiritually married him, her career as an independent woman ended completely. She has stated that she quit her job right after moving to be with the family. From that point forward, every dollar Robyn spent came from the collective family pot. A pot that was filled by the labor of Mary, Janelle, and Christine. A pot that funded Robyn's lifestyle while she contributed virtually nothing in return. For over 15 years, Robyn has not held a consistent independent job. She has withdrawn from the family finances while her sister wives deposited. Janelle worked full-time throughout the marriage. Christine raised the children and later built her own business empire. Mary ran a successful bed and breakfast. What did Robyn do? She hired a nanny paid for by the family. She went on an 11-day honeymoon to San Diego while the other wives got weekend road trips. She moved into an $890,000 home in Flagstaff while Christine worried about affording her daughter's surgery. Now, this same woman stands in her kitchen, lecturing her daughter about financial independence. She preaches self-sufficiency from a mansion secured through the collective earnings of women who actually worked. She warns Aurora against depending on a man while having spent her entire adult life doing exactly that. The irony is not lost on anyone watching. But Robyn was not done rewriting history. Robyn had more wisdom to share during that cookie baking session, and this time she reached all the way to the heavens to justify her own choices. She began explaining to Aurora how in their former church in plural marriage, it was acceptable to consider anyone as a potential partner, anyone, including a man who already had 3 wives and 13 children. And then came the bombshell revelation that Robyn clearly wanted the cameras to capture. She described being on a drive with Cody during their courtship when she was suddenly overcome with what she called God's spirit. Tears ran down her face. She could not speak, and in that moment she claims God told her that Cody was her person, her forever, the family she was supposed to be with. This was not just romantic storytelling. This was calculated narrative laundering happening in real time on national television. Think about what Robyn accomplished with this single anecdote. She absolved herself of any responsibility for breaking up a family. It was not her choice to pursue a married man with 3 wives. It was God's divine instruction. She did not homewreck. She followed a spiritual calling. The manipulation is almost elegant in its construction. By framing her entry into the Brown family as a religious experience rather than a personal decision, Robyn positions herself as merely an instrument of a higher power. But fans are not buying it. They remember the early seasons. They watched Robyn insert herself into Cody's life with calculated precision. They saw her cry about wanting sisterhood while simultaneously pulling Cody away from his other wives. They witnessed her demand an 11-day honeymoon while Christine, Mary, and Janelle had settled for quick road trips. Divine revelation? It looked a lot more like strategic positioning. The timing of this confession matters too. Robyn shared this story while supposedly advising Aurora about her relationship with Brody. But was she really offering guidance, or was she using her daughter's love life as an opportunity to rehabilitate her own image? By telling this story on camera, Robyn accomplishes 2 things simultaneously. She reminds viewers that her union with Cody was spiritually ordained, while subtly suggesting that Aurora's relationship might not carry the same divine blessing. After all, Robyn made it clear that the relationship should be between Aurora and God, not Aurora and Brody, God and Aurora. She placed the Almighty directly in the middle of her daughter's romance, establishing a standard that conveniently only Robyn herself claims to have met. If Aurora does not receive a similar divine revelation about Brody, does that mean the relationship is not meant to be? This is the insidious nature of Robyn's manipulation. She wraps control in the language of spirituality. She disguises interference as piety. She positions herself as the prophetic voice in her children's lives while claiming she only wants what God wants. The woman who tore apart a plural family now lectures her daughter about seeking divine confirmation for love. And speaking of Aurora seeking independence, the reality of her situation is far more troubling. Here is the question that Sister Wives fans cannot stop asking. Why is a 23-year-old college-educated woman still living at home with her parents? Why does Aurora Brown, a legal adult by every measure, still exist under the same roof and the same rules as her younger siblings? The answer becomes painfully obvious when you examine the environment Robyn has carefully constructed around her children. Aurora is not just living at home for convenience. She appears to be trapped in a controlled ecosystem where independence is discouraged and autonomy is treated as a threat. Fans who watched the scene where Aurora and her sister Brianna asked permission to attend church were horrified. These are grown women, adults who should be making their own decisions about faith, relationships, and daily life. Yet there they sat, nervously presenting their case to Robyn as if requesting permission to stay out past curfew. The contrast with the other Brown children is staggering. Christine's kids moved out, got married, started families, and built careers. Janelle's children launched into adulthood with confidence and direction. Even during the most chaotic periods of the plural family, the original 13 children were given room to grow, make mistakes, and find their own paths. But Robyn's children remain frozen in a state of perpetual adolescence, sheltered from the world their mother claims is too dangerous to navigate alone. Social media exploded with concern after recent episodes aired. One fan wrote that Robyn is controlling and manipulative, and while her daughters are technically adults who can leave at any time, they walk on eggshells and do not want to upset their mother. Another viewer observed that whenever Brianna speaks, she looks like she is about to burst into tears or is apprehensive about what she is saying. These are not the behaviors of confident young women ready to take on the world. These are the responses of people who have been conditioned to seek approval before expressing their own thoughts. Reports from family insiders paint an even more disturbing picture. A cousin who was once close with Aurora revealed that after the family moved from their previous home, she would try to maintain contact through video calls. But Robyn allegedly interfered constantly, not allowing the girls to speak freely on the phone or via video chat. When they did connect, the children seemed coached, unable to speak candidly about their lives. The cousin claimed that Aurora privately referred to her mother as Mother Gothel, the villainous character from Tangled who imprisoned Rapunzel in a tower and convinced her the outside world was too dangerous to explore. The parallels are haunting. Aurora has been kept in a gilded cage her entire adult life. She likely handles significant household responsibilities as the oldest daughter. She probably helps care for her younger siblings, Solomon and Ariella. She absorbs her mother's emotional volatility and her parents' dysfunctional marriage dynamics, all while being told she is not ready to make her own choices about love. And now someone has finally arrived who might help her escape. His name is Brody Utley, and he represents everything Robyn Brown cannot control. A 23-year-old Army veteran from Flagstaff, Arizona, Brody is the kind of man who exists completely outside of Robyn's carefully constructed world. He did not grow up in the fundamentalist Mormon community. He was not raised with plural marriage as an acceptable lifestyle. He met Aurora at a mainstream Christian church that has nothing to do with the Browns' religious background, and that makes him dangerous in Robyn's eyes. Brody is a cowboy in the truest sense. He rides horses, listens to country western music, plays guitar, and spends his free time hunting, fishing, and rock climbing in the Montana wilderness. His Instagram reveals a man who loves the outdoors, cherishes family ranching traditions, and carries himself with quiet confidence. When internet trolls questioned a photo of Aurora holding one of his rifles, Brody responded with perfect composure, politely explaining that the weapon was his legally registered AR-15 used for hunting and recreation. Fans praised his measured response, calling it polite and accountable. This is not a man who will be intimidated by Robyn Brown's tears or manipulated by her guilt tactics. This is not someone who came from the cult or understands the bizarre power dynamics of the Brown family. Brody represents something Robyn has spent 15 years preventing: an exit strategy for her daughter. And Robyn knows it. You can see the concern barely hidden beneath her supportive mother act. She emphasized that Brody is not from their culture. She stressed that Aurora needed to find herself before committing to anyone. She made pointed comments about knowing what you think and feel before becoming a wife or mother. Every word was carefully chosen to plant doubt without appearing unsupportive. But here is what makes Brody truly threatening to Robyn's control. Aurora found him on her own. After years of being sheltered and supervised, Aurora walked into Urban Hope Church in Flagstaff and met someone who saw her as a complete person worthy of love. She did not need her mother's introduction. She did not require Robyn's approval to begin the relationship. For perhaps the first time in her adult life, Aurora made a significant decision independently. The timeline tells the story. Aurora got baptized at her new church in April. She started dating Brody shortly after. By September, they were celebrating their one-year anniversary with heartfelt Instagram posts declaring their love. This relationship developed and deepened completely outside of Robyn's sphere of influence. By the time it appeared on Sister Wives, Aurora had already built something real with a man her mother barely knew. Insiders suggest Robyn's disapproval runs deeper than what she shows on camera. If Brody was from the fundamentalist community, if he had money and status, if he fit the mold Robyn envisioned for her daughter's future husband, the reception would be entirely different. But a military veteran turned cowboy who takes Aurora hiking and shooting, that was never part of Robyn's plan. And her next manipulation tactic proved even more insidious. Robyn delivered one of her most calculated lines during that kitchen conversation, and it almost slipped past unnoticed. She told Aurora that her relationship was really between you and God and Brody to a certain extent. Pay attention to that phrasing. To a certain extent. In one carefully constructed sentence, Robyn diminished Brody's role in his own relationship while elevating God as the primary decision maker. And who conveniently speaks for God in the Brown household? Robyn herself. This is manipulation dressed in spiritual clothing. By inserting the Almighty into Aurora's love life, Robyn created a framework where her daughter must seek divine confirmation before trusting her own heart. It is the same tactic Robyn used to justify her own choices years ago. Remember, she claimed God told her Cody was her person during that fateful car ride. She positioned herself as someone who received direct communication from the heavens. Now she expects Aurora to meet that same impossible standard. But Aurora did something remarkable in that moment. She pushed back, quietly and respectfully. She corrected her mother's framing. "For me, it is between me and God and Brody." Aurora clarified. "And for Brody, it is between him and God and me." Notice how she restructured the equation. She placed Brody as an equal partner in the spiritual discernment process rather than an afterthought to be considered to a certain extent. In her gentle way, Aurora refused to let her mother minimize her boyfriend's importance. This small act of resistance reveals more than Aurora probably intended. She has been listening to Robyn's manipulation her entire life. She knows the playbook. She recognizes when her mother is using religious language to control outcomes, and in this instance, she chose to define her own relationship on her own terms. Whether Robyn noticed the correction is unclear, but viewers certainly did. The religious guilt tactics Robyn employs are not new. She grew up in a fundamentalist community where spiritual authority was used to enforce compliance. She watched her own parents navigate plural marriage dynamics where divine will was invoked to justify difficult decisions. Now she perpetuates the same patterns with her children, wrapping her desire for control in the language of faith and prayer. Fans pointed out the obvious contradiction. If Robyn truly believed relationships should be between individuals and God, why was she inserting herself so forcefully into Aurora's love life? Why the commentary about Brody not being from their culture? Why the lectures about finding yourself first? A mother who genuinely trusted God's plan for her daughter would offer support and step back. Instead, Robyn hovers constantly, offering unsolicited opinions disguised as spiritual wisdom. The talking head interviews made Robyn's true feelings even clearer. She expressed concern about Aurora moving too fast. She wondered if her daughter really knew Brody well enough. She questioned whether this relationship aligned with what God wanted. Every doubt she planted on camera was another seed designed to undermine Aurora's confidence in her own judgment. But the roots of Robyn's behavior stretch back to her own painful history. The truth about Robyn's interference becomes crystal clear when you examine her own romantic history. She is not protecting Aurora from making mistakes. She is projecting her own failures onto a daughter who has done nothing wrong. Every warning Robyn issues, every doubt she plants, every piece of unsolicited advice traces back to choices Robyn herself made and now seemingly regrets. In Becoming Sister Wives, Robyn wrote candidly about her mother Alice's reaction to her relationship with Cody. Of all her relatives, her mom struggled the most with the decision. Alice worried that Robyn was putting her children in harm's way by joining a polygamous family and appearing on television. She was especially concerned because Robyn's first marriage had been destructive and unstable. Alice felt her daughter was being irresponsible and not taking her children into consideration. Sound familiar? Robyn dismissed her mother's concerns at the time. She insisted she was bringing her kids into the most wonderful family she had ever seen and giving them the best father imaginable. 15 years later, that wonderful family has completely fallen apart. 3 wives have left. Most of Cody's 18 children want nothing to do with him. Robyn's own kids have publicly stated they felt unwelcome and excluded by their step-siblings. The dream she sold herself on has become a documented nightmare playing out on national television. Now Robyn stands in her kitchen doing to Aurora exactly what Alice did to her. The difference is that Aurora's situation carries none of the red flags that Robyn's did. Aurora is 23 years old with no children. She is not bringing kids into a chaotic blended family. She is not joining a plural marriage with 3 other women already established. She is not signing up for a reality television show that will expose every intimate moment of her life. Aurora is simply dating a nice young man she met at church. But Robyn cannot see the distinction because she is blinded by her own guilt. She wrote about wanting to meet Oprah, write a bestseller, and change the world. She admitted that being on television altered her entry into the family and that fans cast her as a homewrecker from the very first season. Deep down, Robyn knows the criticism was not entirely unfair. She knows she disrupted something that existed before her. And rather than process that guilt, she transfers her anxieties onto her daughter. The advice about finding yourself before becoming a wife or mother is particularly telling. Robyn never found herself. She jumped from one marriage directly into another. She went from financial instability to complete dependence on a new husband. She never built an independent identity or career. Everything she warns Aurora against is everything Robyn actually did. Alice was right to worry about her daughter joining the Browns. That decision led to 15 years of dysfunction, failed businesses, estranged relationships, and a family in ruins. Robyn cannot admit her mother saw clearly what she refused to see. So instead, she becomes Alice, projecting those same fears onto a daughter whose circumstances are entirely different. And Robyn's financial hypocrisy runs even deeper than her romantic history. Let us lay out the complete financial picture because Robyn's hypocrisy deserves a full accounting. When she joined the Brown family in 2010, she did not arrive as an equal contributor. She arrived as a liability. Reports indicate Robyn brought approximately $32,000 in credit card debt that the family had to absorb so everyone could qualify for financing on their Las Vegas homes. Before she ever deposited a single dollar into the family pot, she started with a massive withdrawal. The other wives had spent years building the family's financial foundation. Janelle worked full-time as the primary breadwinner for decades. Christine sacrificed a career to raise all the children, functioning as the household manager and stay-at-home mother for the entire plural family. Mary contributed her income and later built a successful bed and breakfast business. These women worked, they earned, they deposited into the communal account that supported everyone. Robyn withdrew, consistently and lavishly. When she joined a family with 3 experienced mothers and plenty of older children who could help with childcare, Robyn hired a nanny. Not a family member, not a sister wife, a paid employee funded by the family bank account. Christine had raised a dozen children without hired help, but Robyn needed professional assistance for her 3 kids. The other wives noticed. The resentment began building immediately. Then came the honeymoon disparity. Mary, Janelle, and Christine all received modest road trip honeymoons when they married Cody, short getaways that fit the family budget. Robyn got an 11-day vacation to San Diego, nearly 2 weeks of romantic escape, while the other wives stayed home working and parenting. Her children went to her mother's house during this trip, rather than staying with their new sister wives. Even in celebration, Robyn kept her family separate and her expenses elevated. The $890,000 Flagstaff home became the ultimate symbol of financial inequality. While Janelle lived in an RV on Coyote Pass and Christine scraped together money for Isabel's spinal surgery, Robyn moved into a mansion. Cody admitted he bullied her into buying it, but Robyn has never lived modestly. Janelle later called out Robyn for wearing $400 flip-flops and Tory Burch sandals, while other family members stressed about basic expenses. And then there was my sister wives closet, Robyn's supposed business venture. She positioned herself as CEO and creative director of this jewelry company that would prove her entrepreneurial worth. The reality? The business never turned a profit. The website went years without updates. When confronted about customers paying for items they never received, Robyn laughed and blamed people for sneaking orders in through a shopping cart she never bothered to disable. This was not a businesswoman. This was someone playing store with other people's money. For 15 years, Robyn has lived as a financial dependent while her sister wives actually worked. She has treated the communal pot as her personal expense account, and now she lectures her daughter that a man should not be a financial plan. But her control tactics extend far beyond money. The cookie scene was not an isolated incident. Robyn's controlling behavior toward her children has been documented across multiple seasons and confirmed by family insiders who have witnessed it firsthand. This is a woman who has systematically cut her children off from extended family, monitored their communications, and created an environment where independence is treated as betrayal. Remember the Christmas group text situation? The Brown children attempted to stay connected through a family chat that included all the siblings. It was a simple way to maintain bonds across the fractured family. But somehow Robyn interfered and removed her children from the conversation. She literally disconnected them from their own siblings. The message was clear. Contact with the outside world, even with family members, would go through Robyn first. A cousin who grew up close to Aurora shared disturbing details about what happened after the family relocated. She used to do video calls with Aurora regularly, trying to maintain their childhood friendship, but Robyn allegedly interfered constantly. She would not let the girls talk freely on the phone or through video chat. When conversations did happen, the children seemed coached, unable to speak candidly about their lives or feelings. Even their biological father, Preston, reportedly had to sneak onto calls because Robyn controlled access so tightly. This cousin revealed something that stuck with viewers. Aurora privately called her mother Mother Gothel. The reference to Disney's Tangled villain was not accidental. Aurora saw herself as Rapunzel, locked away from the world by a mother who insisted the outside was too dangerous. She felt suffocated, controlled, and prevented from living her own life. This was not teenage rebellion talking. This was a young woman recognizing the cage she had been placed in. The evidence continues mounting with every episode. When Aurora and Brianna wanted to explore churches outside the family's fundamentalist background, they approached Robyn nervously, as if asking permission for something scandalous. These are adult women, legal adults who should be able to attend any religious service they choose without parental approval. Yet the fear in their body language was unmistakable. Brianna appeared on the verge of tears throughout the conversation, apprehensive about every word she spoke. Robyn has created a household where her emotional needs come first. Her children exist to validate her, support her victim narrative, and remain loyal to her version of events. They have watched their mother weaponize tears to shut down criticism. They have seen her reframe every situation to cast herself as the persecuted innocent. They know that disagreeing with Robyn means facing emotional consequences none of them want to endure. The suffocation extends to Aurora's romantic life. Now, every comment about Brody not being from their culture, every suggestion that Aurora should find herself first, every reminder that the relationship is really between Aurora and God is another thread in the web. Robyn weaves around her daughter. She cannot physically prevent Aurora from dating, so instead she plants doubt, manufactures concerns, and positions herself as the voice of spiritual wisdom. But Aurora may have finally found her way out. Something remarkable is happening with Aurora Brown, and Robyn cannot stop it, no matter how many cookies she bakes or how much spiritual advice she dispenses. For the first time in her carefully controlled life, Aurora is making choices that belong entirely to her. She found her own church. She got baptized on her own terms. She met a man without her mother's introduction, and she is building a relationship that exists completely outside of Robyn's influence. The timeline reveals a young woman quietly claiming her independence. In April, Aurora was baptized at Urban Hope Church in Flagstaff, a mainstream evangelical congregation with no connection to the family's fundamentalist roots. She specifically asked Cody to participate in the baptism, a gesture that seemed to genuinely surprise him. This was Aurora choosing her own spiritual path, stepping away from the beliefs her mother had imposed since childhood. She even told Robyn directly that she has no interest in plural marriage. That door is closed. Then came Brody, a cowboy from New Mexico who served in the army and now lives the kind of authentic outdoor life that Robyn could never understand or control. He rides horses, plays guitar, goes hunting, and treats Aurora with the adoration she deserves. In September, they celebrated their one-year anniversary. Brody posted photos calling her his darling and thanking God for bringing her into his life. The warmth in those images stands in stark contrast to the tense, coached appearances Aurora has made on Sister Wives for years. Fans have noticed the transformation. Aurora appears lighter in recent photos with Brody. She smiles more freely. The anxiety that seemed permanently etched on her face during family scenes has softened. One viewer observed that Aurora has a newfound glow, a stark contrast to her more reserved moments in past seasons. This is what happens when someone finally experiences love without manipulation attached. But Robyn is not surrendering easily. Every interview, every talking head confession, every kitchen conversation carries subtle undermining messages. She questions whether Aurora really knows Brody. She emphasizes the importance of taking time. She reminds everyone that her daughter should find herself first. The campaign to sabotage this relationship is already underway, wrapped in the language of maternal concern. The question now is whether Aurora has built enough strength to resist. She pushed back during the cookie scene, correcting her mother's framing about God and Brody. She continues seeing her boyfriend despite Robyn's obvious disapproval. She has created a life at church and in her relationship that does not require her mother's permission or participation. These are small acts of rebellion that could lead to genuine freedom. Brody might be Aurora's ticket out of the tower Mother Gothel built. He represents a world where she is valued as an individual, not controlled as an extension of her mother. Whether Robyn succeeds in planting enough doubt to derail this relationship remains to be seen. What do you think? Will Aurora finally break free, or will Robyn's manipulation win again? Drop your thoughts below, like, subscribe, and stay tuned. The next video is waiting, and you will not want to miss what is coming next.